Nigerians are expected to seek out the best.
2 words to describe the activity.
The Yoruba Unity Forum is conducted.
Be the first to know. From the north, south, east, west, and around Africa,
Presidential
we break the news.
Women in Nigeria.
Now you can catch all the actions live as the news breaks. We are Core TV News.
Welcome to Core TV Primetime
Our
News.
24-hour news station.
Hello everyone, welcome again to Core Digest. This is where we intimate you with stories as they break in Nigeria. As a matter of fact, we go beyond breaking the news to do a Core Digest on some of those news items so you can get to understand them better and take the right decisions. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. We'll kickstart with the much anxiety now that seems to pervade Nigeria as the Nigerian military says they have recaptured 200 girls and about 93 women from the Sambisa forest, a stronghold of the Boko Haram sect in Borno State. Chris Olukolade, Director of Defense Information, says that it could not confirm the identity of the freed victims and their origins, and it could not state if any of them was from Chibok until thorough screening and proper investigations had been completed. But how really would it feel if these 200 girls can be just the Chibok girls that we've been yearning for all the while? It's over a year, over 365 days in the captivity of these evil men. I mean, you cannot even imagine what they would have gone through. While at least 21 people were killed by suspected members of dreaded Boko Haram in Maguba community and other surrounding villages of Beneshek, the headquarters of Kaga local government area of Borno State. It was also gathered that at least 3 major terrorist camps have been destroyed in the well-coordinated attacks that include the destruction of the notorious Tokumbere camp in the Sambisa forest. The insurgents, according to sources, also injured many residents after setting ablaze several houses, mostly thatched roofs, before looting foodstuff and livestock. Beneshek is northwest and about 76 kilometers drive from Maiduguri, the state capital. It's located on the fringes of Sambisa forest along Maiduguri-Damaturu-Kano Road, which have witnessed series of deadly attacks by insurgents. While it's good news that the coordinated African force going on with the onslaught against Boko Haram has been coming back with some sort of good news recently, and we're also hoping that in no time the Nigerian military will be able to identify these recaptured girls and women and let us know if any of them are actually from Chibok. We're talking about those girls that originally were adopted but escaped. You recall that not all of the ladies or not all of the girls at that particular school in Borno State were taken away. There seemed to be good news also for some of those girls that escaped, as the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar says 21 out of the 57 of them that were originally abducted are now on scholarship at the American University Nigeria in Yola. He said this on the sidelines of the Kaduna International Trade Fair. Atiku Abubakar explained that a foreign donor is speaking the bills of the girls to the tune of about $3 million.
There were about 50-something of them who escaped. And out of the 50-something, we traveled to Chibok and got 21 of the girls and brought them to Yola. And we decided to establish a scholarship to educate them.
All right, let me quickly take you back to some updates from the just concluded supplementary elections. You recall that it held in Abia in Imo, I believe also in some parts of Ekiti State as well as Taraba. Okay, of course, Rochas Okorocha was declared winner after the supplementary election, and it took a while before we could get the reaction from the PDP candidate in that part of the country. He finally came out to talk and make known his position. The governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party, who also happens to be the Deputy Speaker of the Senate, is the Senate now or the House of Representatives. I'm sure you know, Emeka Ihedioha has rejected the result of the election as declared by the Independent National Electoral Commission. The PDP flag bearer says the level of irregularities is so high that it will be a travesty for him to accept the result of a flawed process.
As a Democrat and a law-abiding citizen, I wish to acknowledge the declaration of the results by INEC. We will study the details of the results announced very carefully and communicate our position in the near future. Meanwhile, I urge all Imo people to maintain the peace and keep the dream of rebuilding our great parties, our great states together alive. God bless Imo States. God bless the Federal of Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Okay, that's the position of the PDP as of now. Quite a number of the elections might actually end up in the tribunal, as many other candidates are also kicking. You recall that the Accord Party gubernatorial candidate in Oyo State has also said that he would go to court given some irregularities that were recorded during the gubernatorial election. It's also a season of impeachment. It started with the Ebonyi State Deputy Governor. You recall that a few days ago, the Deputy Governor of Ondo State was impeached. And this time around, we're also now going to Kebbi State, where the Speaker of the House of Assembly, Hassan Mohammed Shala, has been impeached for alleged breach of trust and embezzlement of allowances of some members. At the Tuesday sitting, which held in the absence of the Speaker and his deputy, a member of the House representing Benin Kebbi North constituency, Abubakar Sabo, stood as the chair of the plenary. Another member representing Yari State constituency, Aminu Gumbe, moved the motion for the impeachment of the Speaker, and it was seconded by Honorable Aliyu Mutabari from Kalgo constituency. Shortly after the Speaker was impeached, the House elected Habib Musa Jega as the new Speaker via a motion moved by Balam Baba Waje. Shala was however impeached by 12 out of 24 members of the House of Assembly. Jega, a former Speaker, was also impeached by his colleagues in a controversial manner in December 2014. So 12 out of 24 looks as if we're getting back to the number factor. If 7 could impeach 19, or it goes on and on like that. It's a game of numbers here in this part of the world. Let's move quickly away from there and find out details coming up from other quarters. I recall I had a guest, I think it was yesterday or thereabout, talking about how the president-elect might not have been matching words with action, even right now that is not yet president. You recall that he was reported that Muhammadu Buhari, the APC presidential candidate who also doubles as the president-elect, says that it wouldn't appoint anyone with court cases, probably with the EFCC, as a minister in his cabinet. However, you recall that the man chairing the transition committee on the side of the APC is the former Bayelsa boss. And of course, a trial at the Federal High Court could not go ahead as scheduled yesterday. He's being prosecuted by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission for allegedly stealing 19.2 billion naira while in office between 2007 and 2011. The matter was initially adjourned to today for ruling on an application filed by the third accused, Benga Balogun, through his counsel, Israel Olorundare, praying the court to first determine the legal standing of the lead prosecution counsel, Rotimi Jacob-San, to handle the matter and also to determine its motion challenging the competence of the 42-count charge. However, Justice Mohammed said in words through one of his assistants that ruling was not yet ready and asked counsel to agree on a date, and consequently the case was adjourned to May 14, 2015 for ruling on the third accused motion, having confirmed the date to be convenient for the court. In the course of the show today, we'll also touch on these developing stories. The truth is, you are assumed to be innocent until charged otherwise. And then we begin to look at how important it is to also check out the credibility of men and women who will be appointed into one capacity or the other of leadership in this incoming administration, especially now that the president-elect himself had made such statements that he wouldn't employ the service of men and women who have cases to answer with the EFCC. Well, another interesting version of political stories in recent time would be the position of Garba Musa. I hope I got that name right, the spokesman for the presidential campaign organization of APC, given reasons why the African Independent Television was barred from covering some of the outings of the president-elect. He cited security concerns from the president-elect's family and some other reasons for that particular gesture. However, the All Progressives Congress, in a recent media broadcast, have said now that AIT is free to cover the activities of the president-elect. The party insists that the incoming administration has no plans to discriminate against any media, regardless of the role they played in the build-up to the presidential election. APC spokesman Mohamedou Lai Mohammed, I beg your pardon, said in a statement issued in Abuja that the media needs to observe the highest level of professional standards in carrying out their duties. The party also noted that there must be repercussions within the realms of the law for media organizations which have wantonly breached the code of ethics of the journalism profession and turned themselves to partisans instead of professionals. It, however, noted that it will not include barring any accredited media organization from covering the activities of the president-elect. Trust me, this has raised quite a number of dust, especially on the social media, as people have started talking about the freedom of the press. No matter what the position or the steps taken by AIT prior to the election, many are of the opinion that barring this media station from such activities might not just be the right way to go. However, it's also been talked about in other quarters that given such reasons, given the precedences that have occurred, when you talk about partisanship on the part of the media, there were quite a number of media houses and stations that were also partisan on the side of the APC prior to the election. So how do we justify that? We'll talk much about that subsequently in the course of the show. Now let's go to the National Assembly. The queues are back at the filling stations in Lagos. Of course, on my way here today, I saw an amazing sight of vehicles all over. They say it's hard now to get full. Well, it might not be far-fetched from the realities from the floor of the Senate, as the Senate passed the 2015 budget about a week after the House of Representatives approved the spending plan. The 4.493 trillion naira approved by the upper chamber was, however, about 50 billion higher than the original estimate presented to the National Assembly. There was also a marginal reduction in the recurrent expenditure, while the capital side of the budget was scaled down from 642.8 billion to 556.9 billion naira. Now, this is where the interesting part comes in. The senators did not make provision for full subsidy even though 21 billion naira was set aside for the subsidy reinvestment and empowerment program.
To authorize the issue from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation, the total sum of 4,363,363,957,158 naira only.
This year, subsidy has not been brought into this expenditure. We have not seen it, and we did not provide for it too. There should be a provision of that, even if it is not to the extent of that amount that we used to provide for. It could be overly. How would I put it? In itself, it could be the amount that we used to provide might be too much for that particular oil subsidy. But I believe, even if it is 20 billion naira, there is a need for us to look into that subsidy.
My take is, it's not the type of budget and the quantum of money that is there, but how you are able to cap corruption, block leakages, stop people thieving, that matters.
It's natural that when you have a government that is coming midstream to succeeding administrations.
First of all, I believe this is the worst budget we ever passed. Being that it's about less than 20% is the total amount for the capital project.
The dependence on oil has always been a major problem. It has been identified, but I think that this is the time to take very pragmatic steps to diversify the economy. A new government is coming into place. I believe that this is one of the agenda that Nigerians are living at their doorstep, and we hope that they rise up to the challenge.
They have to come up with a strategy on how to surmount the challenge. Is quite unrealistic. We have recurrent expenditure of 2.6 trillion, and we have a capital expenditure of 500. It's appalling. I mean, I just refuse to do the calculation. The ratio is not like anything we've had before.
Quite interesting. You heard one senator say it's the worst budget they've ever passed. How realistic is this budget going to be, especially now that a new administration is coming in? Many are already suggesting a supplementary budgetary allocation in that course. Look at that, 2.6 trillion naira for recurrent expenditure, and then you just have about 556.9 billion naira for capital expenditure. It looks like if we go with this, very little infrastructural development would be the reality for the 2015 year for Nigeria. We'll be joined subsequently by policy analysts who would also shed more light on these developing stories. Well, we're going to take a commercial break now, and when I come back, we'll find out what the top stories are on some of Nigerian dailies, and I'll introduce you to my first guest. Stick around, don't go away.
It is often said that the future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. But what about the things in life that actually inspire us to believe? Like the things that drive us, the things that move us, and even the things that remind us that the sky really isn't our limit. Because when we are inspired, we are led to future greatness. But first, we just have to believe.
One day I want to build Nigeria's first aeroplane.
I know. One day you'll make us proud.
Rich and creamy pig, extra fortified with 28 vitamins and minerals. Here's to 60 years of nourishing dreams and inspiring the future. The future is bright. Reach for your peak.
On the day list this morning, Nigerians encourage corruption, cites
first up the punch newspaper. And Nigerian governor calls for Okonjo Iweala's resignation. Page 2 of the punch newspaper. The dailies every day on Core TV News.
Welcome back. Let me quickly intimate you with top stories making headline on some of Nigerian dailies. I have here with me the Vanguard, the Punch, the Nation, as well as the Guardian newspaper. The big story on the front page of the Vanguard this morning: troops storm Sambisa, rescue 293 females. The riders here, identities yet to be confirmed, says DHQ. Boko Haram kills 22 in fresh Borno village attacks. And the front page picture shows May 12, 2014 picture of the Chibok schoolgirls kidnapped by Boko Haram. It was taken from a video of insurgents obtained by the AFP. A total of 276 girls were abducted on April 14 from Chibok in Borno State. The question here is, any hope that the 200 girls, that any of them might just be part of the Chibok fellows? Senate passes 4.49 trillion, 3 trillion naira 2015 budget. That's on page 9 of the Vanguard. Indonesia executes 4 Nigerians for drugs. Page 56. I want to check details of that if you can. NNPC Act gives it a blank check to spend without limit or control, says PwC. Details of that on pages 28 and 29 of the Vanguard. Let's check for some sports very quickly at the back page of the Vanguard this morning. Nike deal, NFF reads riot act to players, coaches, City Free Iheanacho to join Flying Eagles. And then you have the big fight. Pacquiao ran away from home age 12 after his dad ate his dog. Mayweather has the chance, says Sugar Ray Leonard. You get details of that on page 61. It's coming up on Sunday, I believe, 3 a.m. Nigerian time. They say it's 4 days to go for one of the biggest boxing match in history. Keshi Akobore blasts NFF. Want to find out details of that? It's on the back page. It continues on page 60 of the Vanguard. The next paper here is the Punch. Jonathan Sambo orders to get 3.24 billion naira severance pay. That's on page 2. The front page picture also brings humanity to life. It's the 4 Nigerians that were executed for drug trafficking in Indonesia. Details of that on page 3 of the Punch. I never apologized to Bode George, says Tinubu. That's on page 12. Recall that Bode George also said that he was going on exile if the APC candidates won the presidential election. I want to find if that also features on page 12 of the Punch. Senate passes 2015 budget without provision for subsidy. That's on page 12. Queues return as petrol supply drops. Page 31 of the Punch. Our next point of call is the Nation. Chibok girls, anxiety as army rescues 293 women. Well, the report says 200 girls and 93 women. The front page picture also shows protesters lighting candles outside the presidential palace in Jakarta for those scheduled to be executed. That was yesterday. Indonesia executes 4 Nigerians, 4 others. Page 59 of the Nation. NNPC auditors got no bank statement. Tinubu to Bode George, I never begged you. Outrage over bombing of Kogi radio station. No vote for subsidy as Senate okays 4.493 trillion naira budget. Jonathan suspends permanent secretary over South Africa role. All right, that wraps it on the Nation. Let's check the Guardian. It's the last but not the least. It also shows faces of the 7 drug convicts executed in Indonesia yesterday. Amongst them are 4 Nigerians. No allocation for full subsidy as Senate passes 2015 budget. The story kickstarts on the front page. It continues on page 2. Troops rescue 293 females from Sambisa forest. Malaria vaccine for children coming soon. That's on page 3. Nepal quake. Death toll could reach 10,000. Another day you read the papers and it turns your belly. All right, it's day 380. The count is on by The Guardian, and it says, bring back our girls. Federal government declares Friday public holiday. ICC considers petition over killing of Nigerians in South Africa. Funeral of Oronto Douglas begins tomorrow. All right, that wraps it on the dailies. Don't forget that we'll bring you up to date with details of all of the stories as they break from 11 o'clock, and it happens every top of the hour air on Core TV News. I'm joined now by entrepreneur and public affairs analyst GBOLA joining us today on Core Digest. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Thank you for finding time to come.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
You are one of the many, or let me say few, Nigerians who's had the privilege to live outside the country. Let's start with the very sad story of 4 Nigerians among 7 or 8 thereabout, I think it was 7, that were executed in Indonesia yesterday. The Australian government is already kicking, having withdrawn its ambassador from Indonesia, given reasons that those nationals from their country had spent close to 10 years in prison, shown some level of remorse, and they would have believed more in reformation and rehabilitation of these people. But let me get your thoughts first as your initial reaction to this news.
Although I'm not a supporter of capital punishment, I basically believe that it is inhumane for states to take human lives. But if you do the crime, you will serve the time. And serving the time also entails having to pay the penalty. You know, the ultimate penalty, in so much as you know you committed the crime. Most of these people know what is Indonesia's statute against drug trafficking. They decided of their own accord, their own volition, to ferry drugs, narcotics to Indonesia. And you know one thing I like about it all, that the new president of Indonesia, Widodo, has done. In times past, because of the pressure from a country as advanced and a regional power as respected as Australia, in times past they probably would have left the Australians out of the execution, or they probably would have concocted a mechanism to postpone or defer the implementation of the court order. But you know, they did it.
Well, and just to also realize that all of this happened despite international plea for clemency. They said the men had tried to smuggle heroin into their country. The 4 Nigerians had originally been sentenced since between 1999 and 2004 for different drug-related offenses. Many are beginning to talk, because we also had the privilege to speak with some Nigerians who live abroad. They are also talking about the role of the Nigerian government in all of this, not necessarily in ensuring that they are brought back or rescuing them from the fate that befell them, but to also put things right back at home, because many of them were caught with fake passports. You know,
fake passport meaning?
The belief there is that the Nigerian government, or the way it is in Nigeria, it is quite easy to, you know, get away with faking passports and traveling out illegally.
I don't understand what you mean by fake passport being used by Nigerian. Is it that the passports they were found with was not Nigerian or what?
Now, of course, you understand the fact that many Nigerians who check out of their countries do so illegally. The ease with which they do so is also a concern for the international community.
How do you check out illegally? I want to be, because how do you check out of Nigeria illegally? Nigeria is not one of the countries in the world where you need to get an exit visa before you go out. There are some countries in the world, before you travel out, you need an exit visa. Talking about country like Iran, country like Iraq in those days. And there are a number of countries.
Are you aware that there are thousands of illegal borders in Nigeria with which thousands of Nigerians check out every other time?
And they made their way to Indonesia.
Come on, many of these people were caught with illegal entry points. I mean, they were caught with fake traveling documents, so to speak.
Fake Nigerian passports, so you mean?
That's what the report says.
That is the more reason why Nigeria should not waste any resource in defending their lives. Fake Nigerian, the logic stands, on its own. If you have a fake Nigerian passport, it means that you're not a Nigerian. Because Nigerian passport, to the best of my understanding, is not something that is denied Nigerians. So if you're a bona fide Nigerian, you should hold. Look, if the reports you have read says that any of them is carrying a fake Nigerian passport, then the Nigerian government should not waste any valuable resource. I got to Germany about 20-something years ago, and I discovered that most of the Ghanaians I met in Germany got into Germany with Nigerian passports. So, for people like that, if they were to contravene the law, should the Nigerian government expend any valuable resource in, I don't know. If you have a report that they carry fake passports, for God's sake, let's move on to another issue.
I'll get back to you, GBOLA, but let me quickly intimate you with details of this report. So you can just help me very briefly with the pictures. We have Martin Anderson, who was found guilty of processing 50 grams of heroin. The 50-year-old had traveled to Indonesia on a false passport and was reportedly shot in the leg during his arrest. We have Rahim Agbaji Salami, 50, was arrested in Surabaya with 5.5 kg of heroin and was initially handed a life sentence. 4 other convicts are being held at the high-security prison in Indonesia, and they're expected to be put to death by firing squad in several hours. Of course, the prisoners' families were heard wailing as they boarded a boat for what's expected to be their final goodbyes. Under Indonesia law, the death penalty is carried out by a 12-man firing squad, although only 3 guns are loaded with live ammunition. A Filipina woman was also due to be executed but was reportedly spared at the last minute. Mary Jane Fiesta Veloso was spared after the person who allegedly recruited her to act as a drug courier surrendered to the police, as reported by the Jakarta Post reports. Let's also look at the role that Australia played in all of this in withdrawing their ambassador to Indonesia. Do you see the international community having any role to play in probably forcing Indonesia, quote unquote, to stem this tide of capital punishment?
Indonesia is a sovereign country. Indonesia is a sovereign country. And the meaning of sovereignty is that that country is independent of control from any other power on the face of the earth. If the law in Indonesia says that if you take drugs to Indonesia, you'll be killed, if you know you are involved in the drug trade, you better not go to Indonesia. Simpliciter. Any other thing we speak above that is grammar. Upon all the resources of Australia, upon all the clout that Australia wields in the Pacific Rim region, Indonesia went ahead, as it is Indonesia's right, to implement a rightly pronounced judgment by its legal machinery. My brother, what we should be preaching at this juncture is not how any force on the face of the earth will intimidate Indonesia out of its conviction to do the right thing to protect its society. What we should be doing is to be preaching at our youngsters, preaching at our adventurous, materialistic denizens and nationals, that you know what? If you are in the habit of making money through the illicit way of taking drugs to other jurisdictions or other countries, you better dare not do it with Indonesia.
Would you recommend the same capital punishment for drugs in Nigeria?
I started this interview by saying that I don't generally support capital punishment. That was the first statement I made. But you know what? Because I don't support something does not mean that some people still have it on their statute book. It's still on their statute book. And you know what? Some of these people have been convicted for more than 10, 15 years. 1999, you said the first Nigerian amongst the four, you know, killed. 1999, you said he was convicted. From 1999, they must have explored all the post-conviction machinery of appeal and leniency possible. A new president came in and he says the execution must be done. We should be telling Nigerians there are better creative ways of making money. But if you think you are fast-fingered though, or somebody has perfected a voodoo hat for you through which you can lift your leg like this, one remedy, go to Indonesia.
And you are saying that the Nigerian government has absolutely no responsibility to...
I'm not saying the Nigerian government has absolutely no responsibility. Whilst you were reading out the details of the Nigerians, supposedly Nigerians executed, you said one or some of them were caught with false passports. To the best of my understanding, Nigerian passport is still one of the easiest for Nigerians to get once you have the requisite resources to get it. So if you are caught anywhere in the world with a false Nigerian passport, I will make bold to say that you are not a Nigerian in the first place. So why should the Nigerian government expend resources, in trying to plead for leniency or help that person's appeal? I don't know why.
Right.
And I'm talking as somebody who in the past had lived, had lived in another continent where I confirmed that West African nationals who were not bona fide Nigerians were parading Nigerian passports as theirs. So
it's all right. We'll get back to that subsequently, but it might also be of note to recall that Mr. President was in Indonesia sometimes last year, where he spoke with the leadership there. He even suggested a prisoner swap at that particular time.
That's based on that's always based on a treaty. If you don't have a treaty with Indonesia that allows any of the two bilateral parties to the treaty to exchange prisoners, you can be floating the idea until you have the prima facie law that backs that. It's just an idea.
Indonesia claims that about 30 of its citizens die almost every day
from drug
use, and that probably inspired that very gruesome,
to be honest with you,
capital punishment?
I'm sitting there as somebody who's seen it all. Seen it from the ghetto where I was born in Mushin, the effect of drug. You know, people who had the potentials to become somebody in life. Some, you know, they got into the abuse of use and their lives collapsed along the way. Some got into the exuberance of thinking that they had a cow to be milked perpetually. And, you know, whilst some of us were in school, they were making big money, leading a very exuberant, very flashy, very extravagant life. You know, for so long a time, we never knew we were going to catch up with them. We never even dreamed it. You understand what I'm saying? But along the line too, they made their Waterloo. You understand? And when you review such lives, and the potentials with which these individuals or these characters started out in life, and the ultimate Waterloo that they made, you know, you would know that Nigeria has been denied of so valuable lives from the two ends. And yet, when I also moved, you know, when I was fortunate to leave the ghetto of Mushi to move to Europe, I also saw the effect of drugs on the sociological architecture of people who are trying to make good of their societies. You can have order in place, you can invest in your children, you can invest in your youths, wanting them to turn out, you know, to be the best. And yet, people who ferry drugs into your jurisdiction, making illicit money from it, and wasting valuable lives. So, having seen that, I can't sit here and tell you that I'll be against any society using any measure from the criminal justice system to the medical system to, you know, to even basic, you know, religion and whatever, to help extirpate, the presence or the use of drugs in the society.
I don't know what inspired your sojourn to Europe, but the bottom line is that
I was an economic migrant. Don't let me be pretending there.
Yeah, they say out of about 4 blacks you see outside, that one of them is a Nigerian. You've heard about
anywhere in the world. It's not only outside.
You've heard about the terrible story of thousands of illegal migrants that die on the Mediterranean Sea. You've heard about the xenophobic attack in South Africa, also turns attention to Nigerians who, you know, live and do businesses there. What do you expect?
And who go to abuse South African law too, because, you know, I may not be a supporter of Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, and you know how acerbic I criticized his government and his incompetence. But I don't know of one single political prisoner in Nigeria. But as we speak, it is on record that average of 1,000 plus Nigerians apply for political asylum every week in South Africa. My brother, it's easy for us to condemn the xenophobic attacks, and the xenophobic attacks are indeed very, very, very backward, very outrageous, very bad, very, very deplorable. But you know what? When our own governments across the 3 tiers of governance in Nigeria, they have failed our people so much that what took us, my generation, out in the 80s, you know, is still taking people out, still. That is the failure of governance. And you are having more than 1,000 Nigerians applying for political asylum in South Africa every week of the year. More than 1,000 Nigerians.
It sounds almost unbelievable.
You know, it's
my question really
utter
is,
failure of governance.
what do you expect from this incoming administration? Because they are also not only expected to be president of Nigerians, but indeed for Nigerians in diaspora.
My brother, even before they look at the diaspora, they should look home first. Because the major challenge is at home. They don't need to reinvent the wheel. They don't need to reinvent the wheel. Solve the problem of power. Power. If you solve the problem, I am one who believes that if you solve the problem of power today, if the problem of power is solved today, it will galvanize productivity in this country by a minimum of between 15 to 25%. You may not know the importance of that figure, but when you have productivity increasing by a minimum of 15 to 25%, I can afford to tell you with a degree of conceit that out of the 1,000 plus Nigerians who go to South Africa to go and apply for political asylum every week, you will have a cut down of nothing less than 350 to 400. 350 to 400. Look, Nigerians are very, very enterprising. Very, very, you know, but let the essential resource that an average entrepreneur needs to function, let it just be constant power. And you see, power should, we have gotten to a point now where power, and I'm talking across two facets of power now, you know, power as in electricity and power as in fuel to run the economy, you know, fuel to run your cars, fuel to... Power should now be looked at. We have historically built a culture of looking at the solution to power as something that must be very elaborate, very, you know, very humongous. Power plant, a green power plant, and you will drive 10 kilometers and you are still looking at, you know, the power plant. Kanji this thing. Look, we have seen some experimentations in Lagos that are working fine. Get modular. Get modular. Look, there's an IPP. Many people don't know that most companies in Lagos now, you know, the Coca-Colas of this world, the many private enterprises in Lagos, they have their own independent power plants. Independent. And they're having constant power 24/7. Look, Lagos State government, when Lagos State government saw that, Lagos State government also started emulating them. In Ikeja now, you have the Ikeja IPP between the Lagos State government and Ohando, servicing Alausa, servicing the General Hospital, servicing the courts, servicing Lagos State television. My brother, we have seen that it works. Because it worked there and is working, Lagos State government in the last 1.5 years has undertaken about 4 IPPs. You build a modular power, you know, power plant to target a defined community. Very effective. And you want me to shock you? Amongst all the madnesses happening in the south of Nigeria, in the south of Nigeria, amongst all the madnesses, I'm choosing my words carefully, amongst all the madnesses happening in the south of Nigeria, we accidentally got to know that what the Biafrans did effectively, by the Biafrans refined their own crude and made, you know, and made fuel out of it, could actually be done in Nigeria. Amongst these many, this thing that they will see the JT, Joint Task Force or the JTF, they were clearing, modular refineries. People refining crude. Just find a way of legitimizing it, give the right licenses, have a regulatory agency that will watch over them. Nigerians can process when they even, what is the, this thing sometimes disturbs one. Countries, that have been ravaged with war for so long. Chad has one of the most effective refining plants.
Let me just hold you for a minute, GBOLA. We'll take a commercial break now, and we'll be back with more. Stick around. Don't go away.
It is often said that the future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. But what about the things in life that actually inspire us to believe? Like the things that drive us, the things that move us, and even the things that remind us that the sky really isn't our limit. Because when we are inspired, we are led to future greatness. But first, we just have to believe.
One day I want to build Nigeria's first aeroplane.
I know. One day you'll make us proud.
Rich and creamy pig, extra fortified with 28 vitamins and minerals. Here's to 60 years of nourishing dreams and inspiring the future. The future is bright. Reach for your peak.
Introducing Smart Connect, we get plenty awoof to allow you talk, text, and browse nyafu for tinny money.
Say you know say with just 200 naira recharge card, Airtel they serve me with 200% bonus to yarn more with any network.
Now you not call me your fiance.
Relax. In fact, I don't buy your own address in every as correct vessel. Anytime I recharge 200 naira and above, Smart Connect they serve me with free internet to browse. If you want to make your family follow you enjoy, buy your 4-in-1 family pack for the price of one. Oh baby.
This girl too, na family and friends.
No carry last to buy your Airtel SIM today.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
Welcome back. We're looking at State of the Nation Ahead Transition. It's called Digest Wednesday, and GBOLA is still very much in the house. Thank you very much for staying the course.
Thank you very much.
Let's look at these issues. The queues are back at the filling stations in Lagos, even as the Senate passes the 2015 budget, about a week after the House of Representatives also approved the spending plan. The amazing thing about the budget is that recurrent expenditures is at 2.6 trillion, and then we have capital expenditure just at 556.9 billion naira. That's on one part. The other part is that there is no provision for fuel subsidy, which was set at about 21 billion naira. Is there any relationship between that and the fuel scarcity that's been experienced now in some parts of the country?
The fuel scarcity you have announced as a result of the inability of the federal government, as stated by the body of fuel importers, to clear the outstanding debt that the federal government owes importers. And banks have been refusing to furnish them facilities, and because banks have been refusing to furnish them facilities, and the indebtedness of the federal government to operators in the industry has not been cancelled, people are now getting circumspect using borrowed monies, especially from non-banking or using their shareholders' monies to bring new fuel. Fundamentally, the business model that we run is grossly bad. We have a fundamental problem in our business model because people, especially people in government, they use the importation of fuel, across the board. All the terminologies they call them, MPK, they use the importation of fuel as a fantastic opportunity to practice rentierism. What do I mean by rentierism? Because you are the president, or because you are the minister of petroleum, or because you are a clerk in NNPC, you will make sure, or because you are a functionary in DPR, or because you are a functionary in PPRA, look at the number of agencies I'm counting now. And to import fuel into Nigeria, you schematically have to go through all these agencies. NNPC, DPR, PPPRA, and there's some other organically invisible entities. Do you know that there is a dedicated agency that pays for every fuel, every liter of fuel ferried from Lagos to anywhere in Nigeria? They pay the difference of if you are dumped the fuel in Lagos to you taking it to Kafasha. The business model is so tilted towards abuses that many Nigerians, when they are protesting that they want fuel subsidy, I laugh. I am not in support of the Goodluck Ebele Jonathan's government, and you know my position about his level of competence or otherwise. But any government, and I hear Buhari now saying we will get fuel to 40 naira. The only way you can do that would be to refine your crude onshore in Nigeria and incentivize who may want to go into it as private entities to join forces by building refineries like Dangote is doing now, and give them a defined percentage of crude to be processed for local consumption at a well-discounted rate as it's supposed to be now. That some people are even using that as an opportunity to loot, and give them above that the opportunity to process and sell in the world market, because businesses are not charity. Businesses are not. So the fundamentally what is wrong is the business model we have. And like I said earlier on, it's about time now that we moved away from the very super rich Dangotes of this world building a 650,000 barrel refinery somewhere in Lekki to allowing that guy somewhere in the south, or allowing communities using it as cooperatives to now operate modular refineries.
Let's also look at the
we must get creative about solving this problem and get away from all this, all this idealistic, superlative, refinery and whatever. And we must get very creative. We must make sure that private enterprise is rewarded at the very high end, and at the very middle level, and at the very lower level. Because, and I'm talking as an entrepreneur, there is no problem on the face of the earth that if you direct the attention of humanity to solve this and this is your reward, or solve this, this will only be your reward, that humanity will not solve.
I understand your position. You recall also that the Jonathan administration position has been about removing fuel subsidy in its entirety, and many Nigerians kicked against it. The initial reaction is that the price of fuel per liter will be on the increase. The APC at the time also opposed it.
No. Let's get. This is some of the misinformation we send to our people that we don't know. We do it unwittingly. At a point, about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, if subsidy were to be removed from what was the difference between how much we were buying fuel locally and how much fuel was costing, you know, a barrel of crude was costing in the international market, and average Nigerians would have had to pay more. Now, the global oil market is creating price-wise, is caving in price-wise. The crude, the barrel of crude that we used to sell about 2 years ago, or 2.5 years ago, for say 116, 120 US dollars, they've come as low now as 40 something US dollars. So at this juncture, if we were to allow importers to bring in crude, remove subsidy, and let them sell within Nigeria, chances are that we'll be buying fuel less than less than the pump price we pay now for petrol.
Even with total removal of subsidy.
Total removal of subsidy. And you know what? I've got good news for Nigerians, and this is the message that we need to be pushing to. I've got good news for Nigerians, and the good news is this: that I see the oil price going in the direction, going southward, price-wise, more than northward. That is, the price of, international price of oil going down because, one, Saudi Arabia, I will list a number of factors that will make the international price of food to be going down. Saudi Arabia does not want Iran to be financially emboldened to challenge the Saudi interest and the Sunni interest in the Middle East and in near Asia. And so Saudi Arabia, the only way that Iran can be emboldened will be for the world price of oil to go up. And Saudi Arabia as the largest producer. You know what Saudi has been doing? They've made sure that the world oil market is glutted, so that prices will fall, and it will deny Iran the opportunity of having the requisite financial backbone to further articulate its military and diplomatic assertiveness in that region. Number two, which most people are aware of, America, that used to be the largest importer, America that used to be for decades the largest importer of oil, America is now, the discovery of fracking and shale oil and shale gas is giving America a degree of sufficiency in that thing. I can afford to say with a degree of conceit, given the enormous amount of materials I've read, that in the next 2 years, America will be energy independent.
We might have to round up the segment, but let us bring it home this way. What's the implication of having the price of crude oil fall for a nation like Nigeria, whose major resources?
It will make you people to be creative. I'm one of those Nigerians who are praying fervently that God should let the price of oil come to as low as $5 a barrel,
so that we can
be
alternative.
Because look,
internally generated revenue.
It has been a curse. It has been a curse on our nation. If you come from the south region of Nigeria, you would know that it's an environmental curse. There are villages that 20 years ago, 30 years ago, lives were sustainable in those villages. As we speak now, the bad culture of governance here, which allowed the oil majors to abuse our environment and go scot-free, the bad culture of governance here, which allowed people in government to go into cahoot, you know, like the regulator became, you know, sleeping with the prostitute. The bad culture of governance that failed our people in making sure that they have marketable skills and whatever, turned out people are vandalizing infrastructure. So ecological problems in the south, lousy. In the north, where majority of people, you know, majority of those who have ruled us forever came from, because of the intellectual laziness of making cheap money from oil, they made all those monies, and all the leaders from the north have failed their people. Because of that failure of governance, look at what came out. Boko Haram, we also joined the negative trend of the world with Boko Haram. It was failure of leadership that made a swath or a nation or an army of youngsters to be rudderless in life. No skill sets, no education, qualitative education. So the very few educated started manipulating those who were mainly not educated, that Western education is bad, and yet they were educated. You understand what I'm saying? Look at this.
Any impact on the Southwest?
Oh, that's what I'm telling you. The creative drive, Lagos as we speak, the GDP of Lagos as we speak, is, if you look to our westward neighbors, is the size of the economies of about 7 West African nations. If you remove Ghana, Senegal, Ivory Coast, all those, I call them poor countries, Benin Republic, Togo, this thing. And look at the creative ability of an average Nigerian. If we had allowed creativity, private enterprise to bloom, and people not depending on rentierism, we would have gone further and further than this. So for me, it may sound somewhat sadistic. I really am praying that the price of oil should eat $1 per barrel. Nobody will be interested in mining it.
Thank you very much, GBOLA, for bringing your rich and vast contributions to bear on the show.
Thank you very much
today.
for the opportunity.
We'll take a break here, and I'll be joined by another guest. This time around will also be beaming our light to issues surrounding preparations for handover and the expectation of Nigerians on the incoming administration. Stick around, don't go away.
From time immemorial, women have birthed life, shaped character, and by extension, influenced the society. Moremi of Ife, Emoten of Benin, Queen Aminat of Zaria, all women of influence and power.
Whether it's before election, after election.
How ironical. Women being so powerful, yet have few grounds in decision making.
They see you as a wife, and I see you as a wife to a man.
We are talking women in politics.
A woman will be bold enough to stand up and say, I want to become president of Nigeria.
Only on Core TV News.